Glanageenty Valley, the mystery, the myth and the folklore. Close on 1,000 people a week now arrive to see for themselves this 9 kilometre of a hidden gem of mystery, myth and folklore. There are many seats and tables along the trail which allows hikers to sit and absorb the atmosphere of this special place. If you clear your mind and allow yourself to daydream a little, it takes no great stretch of the imagination to picture the drama that has unfolded here in this very place, which was at one time nicknamed the Sherwood Forests of Munster. In the 1500s, these woods were a hive of activity as horsemen became both the hunter and hunted in the Earl of Desmond era. Stories abound of narrow escapes and harrowing deeds committed here. The Glanageenty Valley stretches 3 miles long in an east to west direction. Glanageenty was famous for its oak woods, and its wood was exported to play its part in the structure of many famous buildings in England. Along its river banks, many families of humble mountain people raised their families, and from a young age the children were taught in the skill of hunting down food by snare, catapult and netting. These dense woods were described as the Sherwood Forests of Munster, and indeed it certainly lived up to that reputation, with many famous warriors making this mountain area their sanctuary. Probably the most famous of these being the last knighted Earl of Desmond, who in 1583 was betrayed for a handful of silver by one of his own men. He was captured and beheaded, and his body cast aside under an old oak tree here in Glanageenty. A monument now marks the spot where his life ended. Robert Monteith of the Roger Casement landing at Bannastrand and Stephen Fuller of the Ballyseedy massacre were more fortunate, as with the help of the people of the glen they were securely hidden here in this rugged landscape until it was safe for them to return to their respective homes. Today these great woods are but a shadow of their former glory, but we hope that enough remains to give you, the walker, a glance back in time. As you stand here today, try and cast your imagination back to the 19th century and picture the children playing here along the river banks in what was then a lush green valley with cattle and goats grazing. On the far side of the river the remains of old vegetable gardens can still be seen high up on the hillside. Folklore has it that near the summit of this hill was an old burial site, and many feel that this was the basic of the name Glanageenty, the Glen of the Morning. Also a stagecoach road ran along the summit of the hill south of the valley. Also here is an old holy well which provided drinking water for the families. There was also a number of other ordinary wells along the valley where locals gathered to not only collect the water, but also to collect all the latest gossip. On the valley floor lies the ruins of the homes of the Burke family, who farmed here in the 19th and 20th century. The 1901 census showed 10 people living there in the house. Parents Michael and Ellen, and children Catherine 21, Thomas 18, John 15, Julia 13, Redmond 11, Ellen 9, James 7, and Mary Minnie 1. The 1911 census showed that of the 10 children born, only 6 were living, and 4 of these were here with their parents. Redmond, who later went to America, Minnie, who married a Lenehan man, and was the longest living member of her family when she died in 1986. Thomas and James continued to farm here in Turin, the open grassland, until their deaths within a week of each other in the mid-1900s. The family left this home in the early 1930s due to frequent flooding from the nearby river, and they built a house a mile downriver at a more elevated site. Also, along the valley floor, we can see many different types of trees and shrubs. These trees and shrubs played a vital part in the survival of these mountain dwellers. The Black Sally was grown in great abundance around most houses, thus generating the tune down by the Sally Gardens. The bark of the Sally was boiled and used as a poultice to heal pains and strains, while the liquid inside the bark was known as salcon, and this was used to ease headaches. The haws and its flowers were mixed 50-by-50 spring water and vodka, and after a period of approximately 2 weeks was strained, and the liquid was then used to cleanse blood disorders and regulate blood pressure. The bark of the white willow was boiled and drank to cure bleeding ulcers, and also its bark was crushed down to powder and used as a deodorant. The white Sally was also grown in great abundance and was used for thatching the houses and the making of baskets. The local people here also used trees and shrubs to predict the weather of the upcoming season. Things like which tree would bud first in spring, etc. One of the famous sayings around here was, "Oak before the ash meant a splash, thus a wet summer," while on the other hand, ash before the oak meant a soak, thus a dry summer. On the bogs north of the valley, sphagnum moss was to be found, and this was used to stem blood flow and heal cuts. This same moss was exported during the war years to the soldiers, where again it was used to help with injuries. The glen west of here is known locally as Glanageenty. On the far side is the source of an ancient holy well. The water flowing from here through the rocks onto the roadway below was believed to hold special powers. This mountain pass was the main route for Ballymacalligot people travelling to the turf-cutting bogs of Lower Compon, and the legend has it that if your horse drank from this well, it would not require water again until its homeward journey in the evening. This belief was so strong that many other wells along the way would be bypassed until the traveller reached the holy well at Glanageenty. On the hill due south of the cabin is an area known as Cunnaconarfan, Mass Rock. This is an elevated point where in ancient times the priest stood and held mass for his congregation standing at a lower level. The rock face on the roadway bend 200 metres south of the holy well is known as the Blackbird's Rock, while the waterfall east of here is known as the Raven's Glen Waterfall. Where the Bernard Collins car park is now situated is known as Boher on Irla, or the Earl's Road. At the very bottom end of the valley are the remains of an old underground church, and these dwellings, which fell into repair, shows the remains of a village of around 40 houses. These fell into disrepair during the famine era, and the stones from these buildings were used for building the current roadway, with locals making 10 shillings for a cartload of stone delivered to the site. Thank you for visiting Glanageenty Valley and walkways, and I hope this brief window of our colourful history will leave you looking forward to a return trip and bringing more trekkers with you so that they also can appreciate what this hidden gem has to offer our wider community.